Hello everybody, my name is Matt Mullins, and I researched and constructed the Sydney Opera House. The architect for this building is John Utzon, who used the architectural style of Expressionist modernism, which involves innovative form and use of natural materials. The project got underway in 1956 and lasted until 1973. It is built in the Sydney Harbour of Australia. The building is a little over 600 feet long and a little under 400 feet wide, and stands 220 feet above sea level, or about 22 stories. It is very unique for its construction, the time in which it was built, and the way it looks. The work started on it in 1959, with 10,000 builders employed. The Sydney Opera House construction cost $83 million. The original estimated cost was around $5.6 million. The roof, which is their most creative part, and what stands out the most when looking at the building, is constructed of what looks like shells that are sitting on top of one another. They are lined with walkways for people to go out onto and look at the surrounding water and city. The base of the building is pretty simple and square, as to not take away from the breathtaking roof. Under each shell is also a glass wall, so as to get a better view from inside. It is constructed from reinforced concrete, glass, glazed tile, and granite panels. Its roof is made up of 2,194 precast concrete sections, weighing up to 15 tons each. The roof is covered with more than 1 million tiles. The building has over 67,000 square feet of glass alone. This building was Utzon's first major work, with only a few houses and a water tower coming before it. He would be on the international stage, and he wanted to make an impression. His initial designs were nothing more than ideas, and he would refine them many times, with the roof being the main concern and the thing that people would see first. Getting to the final design was difficult for Utzon, as they had to rebuild the base because of the complexity of the roof, and could not figure out the solution. When one was finally thought up, it was by Utzon himself, and the idea came from peeling an orange. If the 14 shells we see today were combined, they would form a perfect sphere. This building reflects the need back then for a place where the arts could perform. Sydney did not have anywhere good for the groups like the orchestra or the theater company to perform. These groups at the time were starting to come into the spotlight of the city and of the world. The city thought that without a good place to perform, they would not reach their full potential. Sydney and Australia were coming into the spotlight themselves as a developed country and a city people wanted to visit. One of the biggest things the city needs is somewhere to have performances, and the Sydney Opera House definitely delivered that to the people. The building was commissioned by the New South Wales government for the purpose of creating a building with 2 performance halls, one for opera and one for symphony concerts, but has 7 total venues. The largest of the 7 venues, the concert hall, has 2,679 seats. They went about getting the design through a competition that brought all the world's best architects together, because the committee did not set limits on the parameters or the cost of the total project. Utzon was initially rejected by 3 judges in the 1956 competition to determine who would get to build the Sydney Opera House, but his entry was picked out by the 4th judge, a renowned American architect, Eero Saarinen, who declared it outstanding. Utzon beat 232 other entrants. His designs were unique and innovative to bring some spotlight to Sydney's growing orchestra. The building had many setbacks, many changes, and many had opinions, good and bad, throughout the construction, with some even trying to get the plans halted and dismissed. When Queen Elizabeth II opened the Sydney Opera House on October 20th, 1973, 14 years after construction, Utzon was awarded the Gold Medal of the Royal Institute of Architects of Australia. My project is built out of mostly foam, and it was kind of difficult to get all the shapes right. The shapes of the buildings are very difficult to get right because they're not in any particular shape. So it took me a while to get the form right, but I think once I got the form down, it was pretty easy to get everything else correct. And I think it turned out to do pretty good. It's not as detailed as I'd like it to be, but overall, I like the way it turned out because I can still recognize by looking at it what it is, and I think anybody could recognize just by seeing this what it is, which is the goal, I think, to be able to recognize the structure that you built. So this is the Sydney Opera House.